Well, here we are. Welcome to the capstone explainer of our 20-part series. We've spent a huge amount of time diving incredibly deep into the intricate mechanics of various routing protocols. We've explored everything from the absolute basics of distance vector algorithms to the incredibly complex path vector attributes that keep traffic moving. But today is the ultimate culmination of that entire journey. This is where the rubber finally meets the road and all that theoretical knowledge transforms into practical, bulletproof architecture. We're going to synthesize literally everything you've learned into a highly actionable, step-by-step diagnostic framework. And just as a quick reminder, to do this, we're drawing directly from the definitive source material. This is part 20 of the comprehensive 20-part tutorial, Guide to Modern Network Routing Protocols, that's published by Virtualization Options LLC, which is a fantastic Colorado-based technology research, education, and advisory organization. For this explainer, we are strictly focusing on what is contained in Chapter 20 of that guide, because it essentially serves as the ultimate cheat sheet and decision matrix for your network architecture. Okay, let's dive into this by putting away the textbook theory for a minute and acting like seasoned network architects diagnosing a real-world environment, so you know exactly how these protocols function under the hood. But when you're staring at a blank whiteboard, or honestly maybe worse, inheriting a messy, undocumented infrastructure, how do you confidently select the optimal one? Choosing incorrectly can lead to total network collapse, devastating routing loops, or just perpetually bottlenecked traffic. To avoid those nightmares, you need a rigid, emotionless framework to filter your options.
Let's start with Step 1, assessing network size.
The very first filter in our diagnostic checklist is pure scale, which immediately narrows down our options and, frankly, saves us a massive amount of guesswork. You just have to honestly ask yourself, how large is your network really? Are you managing a tiny branch office with only a handful of connections? Or are you responsible for a massive service provider backbone routing millions of packets a second? The exact same protocol that hums along perfectly in a small branch scenario will completely collapse under the sheer weight of a service provider backbone. Let's actually look at the absolute extremes of this spectrum to see why scale matters so much. If you're dealing with a tiny network, which this framework defines as having fewer than 15 hops and maybe just 2 to 5 routers, you simply don't need the massive overhead of a complex protocol. Basic static routes or a lightweight protocol like RIP will do the job perfectly because there is very little topological math to compute. But jump over to the other extreme, a massive 500+ router ISP backbone. In an environment of that scale, a simple protocol would be a total disaster. Handling those massive, constantly updating routing tables efficiently demands the extreme scalability and robustness of a protocol like ISIS. But hey, what about the networks most of us manage every single day? For that vast middle ground, enterprises sitting comfortably anywhere between 5 and 500 routers, you should really be looking at OSPF or EIGRP as your standard interior gateway protocol. However, keep in mind that scale isn't just about your router count. It's also about your reach and external connections. Any network that becomes internet-facing or multi-homed, meaning you've got redundant connections to different external ISPs, absolutely, positively requires BGP. Nothing else can safely handle those massive external routing tables and complex peering relationships. Which brings us right to Step 2, evaluating vendor ecosystems. Size gets you a shortlist for sure, but your actual hardware makes the final cut. You must meticulously audit the equipment you own right now. What vendors are currently running in your environment? And realistically, what might you purchase in the next refresh cycle? Your specific vendor mix strictly dictates whether you can leverage highly optimized proprietary protocols, or if you're forced to rely on standardized, open protocols just to keep all your different boxes talking to each other seamlessly.
So it literally all boils down to interoperability. Say you've got a mixed vendor environment. For instance, a complex blend of Cisco, Juniper, and Arista hardware. That setup absolutely demands an open standard. In this scenario, OSPF acts as your universal translator. Adhering to RFC 2328 is completely mandatory because it guarantees that different operating systems will compute the exact same shortest path tree. On the flip side, if you are blessed with a strictly Cisco-only environment, EIGRP becomes a remarkably strong alternative. By staying within that single unified ecosystem, EIGRP unlocks hardware-specific optimizations and advanced distance vector capabilities tuned perfectly for that specific silicon.
Now, there is one massive, undeniable exception to this vendor rule.
If you happen to be operating within a highly specialized ISP or carrier environment, regardless of whatever unique vendor mix you have deployed across your footprint, IISS remains the universal standard of choice. It is simply built from the ground up for that specific type of heavy lifting, routing at layer 2 and providing just unparalleled stability in the core network.
Moving right along to step 3, need for failover speed.
Okay, so we filtered your network by its physical size, and we filtered it by the reality of your vendor ecosystem. Our final diagnostic check is all about evaluating how quickly your network must recover from a sudden failure. You really need to think deeply about your applications and your end users here. When a crucial fiber link gets cut, how many seconds can those applications afford to wait before the network recalculates a new path? I mean, for background file transfers or basic web browsing, a few seconds of reconvergence is completely unnoticeable. But for live voice traffic, video conferencing, or high-frequency trading, a single second of downtime is downright catastrophic.
This really brings the whole shebang together, offering a brilliant final synthesis of all 3 of our diagnostic steps into a single, cohesive view. Notice how EIGRP, because it uses bandwidth and delay metrics, delivers incredibly rapid, sub-second failover speeds. That is absolutely perfect for keeping large Cisco enterprises seamless and responsive. Now contrast that with ISIS, which relies on link state cost to provide a very respectable 1 to 5 second convergence, optimized specifically for those massive carrier cores. And finally, look at BGP down at the bottom. Operating on incredibly complex policy attributes, it purposefully sacrifices that lightning-fast speed. It's literally slow by design, but that's to ensure absolute internet scale stability and tight administrative control.
All right, let's talk about making your final choice.
Because honestly, once you apply these 3 specific filters, pure scale, vendor interoperability, and the required speed of failover, the correct protocol becomes incredibly obvious. This framework takes the emotion, the brand loyalty, and the guesswork completely out of the engineering equation. You literally just follow the data. So I'm going to leave you with this ultimate challenge. Take a really close look at your network architecture tomorrow. Honestly ask yourself, are you truly running the optimal protocol dictated by this diagnostic framework, or are you simply living with a legacy decision that desperately needs to change?